Max Boot, him again, right-winger that I've loved to hate for a long time. But during the horror this country experienced under Donald Jesus Trump, Max Boot wrote a number of columns that I found to be in complete agreement with. And he has one out again today at the Post. And it's about the mind-boggling hypocrisy that the Christian fascists, he still calls them Republicans, are showing in their attacks on Biden's Afghanistan exit. Now, I know I talked extensively about this last night, and I don't want to get too deeply into it because I pretty much covered it, everything I had to say about what we did and have done, not just Afghanistan, but a number of our military adventures. But the Republicans, as Boot points out, has now finally got an issue that they can, in their minds, legitimately criticize Biden over. And part of that is because the Republicans, the Christian fascists, are not leaders. They're scum-sucking followers, and they're following this horde, this mob of screaming, vicious son-of-a-bitches in this country who are Trump cultists. And they've discovered that only 27% of Americans say that Biden's handling of Afghanistan has been good or excellent. That's according to the Pew Research Center. And yes, even some Democrats are very critical of Biden, but the Christian fascists see this as a golden opportunity to attack Biden, and as a secondary idea, try to reclaim what Max Boot says was its credibility as a serious party on national security. And of course, I think that's bullshit. I don't think the Republican Party has ever been about national security. If they were, years ago, going back to the Reagan years, they would have started investigating and neutralizing the domestic terrorists in this country who are a constant threat to national security. So it's all bullshit when they make the claim, as Max Boot does here, that the Republican Party has been concerned about national security. Nonsense. But anyway, he says that the fundamental problem with the Republican Party is it knows what it's against. Yeah, and that's anything that Joe Biden has done, might do, proposes, no matter how many millions, tens of millions of Americans it would benefit, because it comes from Biden. The Christian fascists are against it. But the Christian fascists also are not for anything of substance. Oh, they want to control women. Absolutely. They want to posture. They want to talk about this and talk about that, but they're not for anything. And Boot cites an example yesterday. Apparently, the scum-sucking Donald Jesus Trump was on the Fox Business Network. And he was going on and on and on, the orange vomit was, about what he called, quote, the level of incompetence on this withdrawal. And quote, Trump saying something or somebody or some situation was incompetent? Trump? But he was pressed on how he would have handled Afghanistan by whoever was interviewing him on Fox Business. And the best he could come up with was this, quote, we should have hit that country years ago, hit it really hard, and then let it rot, end quote. Huh? This orange vomit went on to say this, quote, we should have withdrawn in a totally different way, end quote. But he didn't specify what that way was. We should have hit it really hard and then let it rot. Lovely man, huh? So, as Boot points out, the problem for the orange vomit and his cult is that the Biden pullout from Afghanistan is nothing more but a continuation of the Trump pullout. See, as we talked about, it wasn't Biden who set a deadline for withdrawal. It wasn't Biden who had his Secretary of State meet with the Taliban or forced the release of 5,000 ISIS terrorists. That was Trump. Trump did that. But this filthy Kevin McCarthy and Ted Cruz and the rest of these slime not only refuse to acknowledge that, but try to pump out the lies that it was just the other way around. So all of this leads to just mind-crushing hypocrisy. For example, this little Nazi son of a bitch, Josh Hawley, you remember him with the Nazi salute the day of the riot? On April 13th, Nazi Josh Hawley, who's a senator, his party is Nazism, he's from Missouri, he tweeted this, quote, this is what Hawley tweeted, quote, President Biden should withdraw troops in Afghanistan by May 1st, as the Trump administration planned, but better late than never. It's time for this forever war to end, end quote. Right? And yet, about 5 days ago, this Nazi little fucker demanded Biden's resignation after our 13 service members were killed at the Kabul airport while trying to carry out the evacuation of U.S. citizens and Afghan allies. And Hawley, this little Nazi son of a bitch, said, quote, Joe Biden is responsible, end quote. So what the Nazi Hawley is doing is calling for Biden to resign for implementing Trump's policy. As if this filthy little piglet Donald Trump could have done it any better. Nobody could have done it any better. That's what the Secretary of Defense was trying to explain this morning in his news conference. This was a situation that could only go one way, bad. And it did. Horribly so, with the death of those young people, the Americans, and the 80 or 90 or 100 Afghan civilians, including little kids who were blown to pieces by that filthy, stinking, may Allah condemn his ass to hell forever, terrorist bomber. Well, that's what they believe. More bullshit. And Josh Hawley, the Nazi, is not alone. As Max Boot points out, even before the suicide bombing, a bunch of Republicans who praised Trump for leaving Afghanistan were demanding that Biden be removed for leaving Afghanistan. You see, I mean, it's just obscene and insane. And these are the same scum who insisted that two impeachments of Trump for committing high crimes and misdemeanors were an assault on democracy and a grievous distraction from more urgent priorities. Wow. So Republicans also can't decide if they want to castigate Biden for leaving Afghan allies behind or for bringing them here. That's another thing I talked about yesterday. So it's difficult for the Republicans to make the case that it cares about the fate of Afghanistan when the loudest voice in the room, as Max points out, and that would be the Fox slimeball Tucker Carlson, is employing this white supremacist replacement theory to warn against allowing Afghans into the United States. Because that's going to, I don't know what, replace white people? On Tuesday, last night, this slimy little bastard Tucker Carlson said that, quote, thanks to meticulous and thoughtful planning, Operation Change America Forever came off precisely according to plan, end quote. The replacement theory of these white devils. Now, of course, what the dumb bastard Carlson And he leaves it out because he knows his audience are dumber than dog doo-doo. But what he left unexplained is how, at the very most, 120,000 refugees is going to change a nation of 340 million Americans, the racial balance. Tucker Carlson has become the chief spokesman for the aggrieved white people in this country. Ooh, they're going to replace us. So, since they don't have any policy positions, the Christian fascists, on anything other than control and putting in place a Christian fascist government in this country, much the same way as the Taliban has done or will do in Afghanistan with their religious nuttery. But because they have no serious policy positions, the Christian fascists prefer these bullshit claims. Max closes with this. So why make so many contradictory, deceptive, or downright dishonest criticisms of Biden? The reality is grim enough, but after years of demagoguery and falsehoods, Trump and his followers simply can't help themselves. And in the process, they're making clear that the Republican Party still cannot be taken seriously. Well, not that they ever were, Max, by people who understood how venal and hypocritical they were. And the thing that bothers me about Max, he should know better. I mean, he's a Jew, and he should know that the Christian fascists who have replaced the Republican Party does not exist. It's gone. And Max should understand that he will be at the top of their hit list. When that great getting up morning occurs, when the heavens shall burst forth with a blast from Gabriel's trumpet or some such bullshit, and have seven-headed whore, I don't know, dragons and demons will descend, and the dead corpses and rotting flesh will flow up out of the cemeteries and crypts, and Jesus Christus will emerge, and everybody will, I don't know, go to heaven. Oh my God! Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.